Hey, this is Sarah with Fairheart. I'm super excited to paint these adorable Christmas gnome earrings that are the featured earring of the month. And I'm just going to show you some different tricks on how to get some intricate details and some textures. There's a lot happening with these earrings, and you can either go fairly simple and just kind of fill in the colors. You could actually, with any of our earrings, if you like just the wooden look, you can simply put the hardware on and leave them as plain wooden earrings. But I'm going to show you how to paint them and have all the little details in here, the stars, the ornaments, the little gift box, and his hands and boots. And so just kind of like what direction to take first, what approach to take with these earrings. Number one, you're going to want to have some detail brushes. So this is the brush. We've used it several times that we include with the earring kits. If you purchase the kit option, this is the brush that you'll get. Now, after using it multiple times, like any other brush, sometimes the head kind of comes apart like this, but I have a trick that I use to get it to come into a nice fine point so you can use it for intricate details. Another brush, if you are using your own supplies or if you're adding on to your painting supplies, you may want to grab a liner brush. These are great because the bristles are really nice and long, and it's easy to get it into a really nice fine point. So you could grab a tiny bit of paint and fill in some of these really itty bitty pieces. So whatever you're using, just make sure that you have something that is more intricate, detailed, rated for that, I guess. And it'll just make your life a lot easier to be able to fill in and kind of keep inside the lines. So I have a variety of colors already on my palette here. So I've got some blue, some red and green, of course, some white and some black. And I'll definitely be using quite a bit of the green in the tree and some red on the ornaments. I was thinking about painting his little mittens blue, and we'll need white for the beard. You could leave his nose the color that it is, or if you wanted to mix kind of a different skin tone, maybe something a little more of a rosier kind of a pink, you can change it up however you want. You could add a little gold in the star. This could be really, really detailed, or you could kind of take it a little more simple. So first I'm going to start outlining the tree and kind of filling it in. So I've got some green paint here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll the brush in the paint, and that will help, as you can see, bring it into a finer point. So whenever you're applying your paint, I want you to think of that. Roll it in the brush, get it into a finer tip. It's really important that with a project like this, that you pay attention to what the tip looks like. And sometimes, like, you can kind of see this tip, it almost has like a stray hair that is sticking out. So yeah, there's this real tiny fine hair. I don't know if you can see it, but it's super easy to just very carefully trim that off. And even just wetting the brush down, it gets it into a much nicer point. So just make sure that your tools are working with you and not against you. So I want to leave that edge. You can kind of see where it's cut out around the outside. I'm going to leave that edge that's just outside of the line where the tree is, the edge of the tree. And sometimes it is a little easier if you just actually pick up your piece to paint and just start filling in all these little sections of the tree. My best advice for you with these, the sharp edges and the corners of the tree, start from the base, or I'm sorry, start from the outside and pull in. So real carefully start on the tip of that branch and pull in. That's going to help you to get a much cleaner edge. And I know that all these little details can kind of be a little overwhelming, a little intimidating, but just take your time. You can always paint over it if there's something that just didn't turn out quite right. You can paint over it. You can kind of sand these off and repaint it. It's all wooden, so if you aren't crazy about how it turned out, you can sand it off. You have to kind of sand it quite a bit, but. And also, don't be an extreme perfectionist. That might be easier for me to say than for you to actually be, but I just don't want this to be like a high pressure experience for you. This is supposed to be relaxing. So just have fun with it and focus on, you know, all these little details, just kind of losing yourself in the details and taking your time. We don't want to fill in these burned lines. We just want to kind of float over it with your brush so that it kind of hits the raised edges, but it doesn't fill in the lines, as you can see. So, and I'm pivoting the piece so that way I'm always painting it in a way that is more comfortable for me. I'm right-handed, so it's a lot easier for me to go from the left to the right with these edges of the tree. So that's kind of the nice thing about little pieces of art like this. It's a lot easier to rotate it and kind of work with it however it's most comfortable for you. Okay, so I got the whole tree painted on one earring. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other. I definitely recommend that you paint one piece at a time, but do it in steps. So it's just going to be easier for your flow if you know, paint one tree, then paint the next, then paint one star, then paint the next, instead of painting the whole thing and then going to the other one or the other earring and painting the whole thing. Hopefully that makes sense. So do them both kind of in the same, at the same time. Instead of finishing one to completion and then starting on the next one, just do the same parts at the same time. So I'm just, as you can see, I'm spinning it around a lot because I want to make sure that I'm getting around the ornaments and not painting those. So when you finish these, and you can clearly see now the outline. So the part that's outside of the tree and it goes all the way around the entire piece, that's the cut line. You can leave it plain, or if you want to go back over it like in the very end after you get all of the inside pieces done, you could paint it like white or gold, or just put like a thin coat of glitter paint around it. Do whatever you want. Okay, I'm going to clean out my brush. So I'll be switching colors. I think I'm going to paint his little beard in next. After I take a sip of my coffee. Okay, so I'm going to paint his little beard in with some white. And then I'll show you how, if you want to add in a little bit of texture. So careful around the ribbon. It's okay if you accidentally paint over parts of it, but you want to get this little, like the top part of this ribbon that is going over his nose. Don't paint the inside of that part, but paint this bottom part in with where the bow is in the middle part. I hope you know what I'm explaining. It's kind of hard to explain some of these pieces. I'm just carefully filling it in. Using some short strokes and some longer strokes, just depending on where I'm at. I got a tiny little bit on the green there, so I can go back and touch that up later. If that happens, don't worry about it right when it happens. Just keep going. You can always go back and do touch-ups later. Working around his little mittens. You can also use a toothpick for tiny, tiny little spots that you can't quite get with a brush. You could use a toothpick and just dip a tiny bit of paint in there. Once in a while, I like to get my brush a little bit wet and roll it in the paint. Kind of, it makes it a little bit more fluid. So if your paint seems a little sticky or tacky, just dip it in some water to kind of re-wet it and roll it in your paint. Because you don't want to stick your brush right in the water and then go directly to your project. You want to kind of wipe it off. Now, I don't know if you just saw, I got a tiny bit right here. So I can kind of just use my fingernail and wipe that spot off. And I'm not applying much pressure at all. That's kind of the trick to painting these little details. Just don't barely press your brush on the surface. Just kind of float it across. coming along. All right, so I'm going to switch to some red. And the red I know is going to pop out really nice and bright. So it's going to be a good color to use for some of the finer details like the ribbon and these little ornaments. Now the ornaments are real easy because you can just kind of take your brush that's kind of loaded with paint and just dot it on there very carefully until it fills out that the shape. And then I'm going to use that same color, I think, for the ribbon. Now this is going to be a little bit more tricky, so just be very careful, take your time. Barely touch it onto the surface. If you press down, it's going to make your bristles expand, and this is pretty much just a little too much paint. So you want to have a nice fine tip like this, especially right on this spot right here around the nose. Tiny, tiny drop of paint is all you need. Just really take your time. I know it's a little bit nerve-wracking because you don't want to screw it up, but don't put too much pressure on yourself to make it perfect. Okay, and then I'm just gonna finish with the ribbon. And then I think I'll make the present green as well. And this will give me a good opportunity to touch up that one little spot where I got some white on the on his tree. Okay, so now I'm just going to go in to those empty spots. You don't even have to fill the entire thing in, just get the main open spots. And that'll give it enough color that you'll know what it is without it being exactly perfect. All right, we're making good progress. So I'm going to switch over to some blue. I've got a dark blue. I'm going to add a little bit of white to it so it's kind of a lighter blue. And that is going to be the color of the mittens. Okay, so I've got some of that blue. And I'm leaving the cuffs. I don't want to paint those white because it's right up against the beard. So I think I'll just use a darker blue for that part. That way it kind of separates it, but it brings it together. And with his little boots, I could do the same color, make, there's like a little spot right here where you can, oops, the paint was, sometimes the paint will do that where it'll kind of drip, or it'll be kind of stringy, like it'll stay attached to the brush. And that's always annoying when it kind of drips across where you don't want it. Okay, so I'm gonna try, I just painted his boot cuffs the dark blue, so I think I'm gonna do the same thing with his boots and paint them blue to match his mittens. Now, if you try this and if you don't care for it, you can always paint over it. So if you want to tweak any of these colors, you can always go back and paint over it. And you can do that as many times as you need to. You just want to do it carefully with the same method and just, you know, wait until it's all dry. So with this, I'm kind of debating if I want to have it the same or if I want to paint it black, and I'm kind of leaning towards I want to see what the black might look like. Because it almost, I think it's just too similar, so I'm going to go back over it. And it's fine that that blue paint is wet because the black is going to take over it anyway. You would just, if it's a lighter color, like if you're going to do yellow or something like that, you would want to make sure that your paint is dry. So that way it doesn't mix with it. But the black will take over anything. So yeah, I like this a lot better with the black. And I'm just holding the star so that way this doesn't move around on me because I haven't painted the star yet. So we'll work on that next. Now, if you wanted to change and have his cuff on the boot show, I would suggest maybe a red. So I'm going to try that. Instead of that dark blue, I'm just going to put a dot of red there. Yeah, that'll work. So this could be like the cuff on his boot, or it could be little pants. And it's dry enough that this red will cover it. Okay, so pretty much everything is painted except for the star, and I'm going to use a little bit of gold paint for the star. And I'm just going to paint this inside the inside part of it. I'm avoiding the lines, trying to. Kind of went over them a little bit, but if you go over the lines, you can actually kind of scrape the paint out if you have like something that's really skinny and pointy. I'll often use our like a weeding tool. It has like a really fine tip to it. You could use like a little pin. If you have like a safety pin or a push pin, That would work. See, I'll paint this inner star in here too. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. There's a couple of spots I can see that I could touch up, like around the edges. If you wanted to put something around the outside, you could do that now. I think I'm just going to leave it the wooden color. Just leave it natural. But I did want to clean this up because I can see some of that blue on the boot still. Now there's a couple other things that would make this pop a little bit more. I want to add a little streak of white on the bulbs, the ornaments, to kind of make it look like it's shining. So I've take just a tiny bit of white and just basically try to make the tiniest little dot. See what I'm doing there? Just like a little shine. It's kind of too small to do a line, but I can do just a little streak or little dot like this. And then you could do the same thing with the boots if it's all dry. And just kind of do like a tiny little streak. And that just makes it look shinier. And then if there's any sparkle that you want to add, maybe add some glitter paint, you could do that as well. I might do that. Let's see. Just a tiny dab of glitter. Where should I put the glitter? Maybe on the star and maybe the ornaments. Just kind of give it a little bit of a sparkle. Oh, that's right. You could put it around, like if you just want to do the edges, that's kind of a fun place to put some glitter. It just gives it a little sparkle around the outside. I was thinking about adding little streaks of gray into his beard, but I think with this, it just is a little bit too tiny for my taste to work with. I am liking the glitter around the edge though. Could add some to the ornaments. You can really get as detailed as you want with this, whatever is your taste. So I'll try adding a little bit to the ornaments since I have a little extra. Even put a little bit on the bow, the ribbon, or the presents. There we go. Okay. Super cute, really fun. There's a little close-up for you. So now we just have to add the hardware. So if yours is really wet, make sure that you let it dry. You have the option to paint the back side if you want. You could just paint it a solid color. You could just leave it the way it is. If you wanted to actually do the same thing and just kind of, you could hold this one next to the other one and just kind of create a gnome, a little painted gnome if you wanted it to look like it's, on both sides. But I usually just leave them plain. You typically will see the front side of it anyway, unless the wind is blowing and your earrings are like flapping around, then sometimes it's kind of nice to have something on the back, but you could add that at any point too. So I'm going to go ahead and add the earring hardware to it. I'm going to use some silver hardware. So we've got the hooks. You're going to need 2 hooks, 2 tiny jump rings, and 2 bigger jump rings. Let's see, I think I'm going to go this side. And then I like to use a couple of needle nose pliers. I prefer to work with 2 pairs because I think it makes it a little easier. I'm going to zoom this out just a smidge. So what I always start with is separating the smallest ones. So just kind of take this and rotate it. That opens it up, and you're going to hook this right onto the ring that's on the hook. And then just use the pliers to carefully close it. Sometimes you gotta fight with it and turn it a little bit. Close that shut so it's all the way clasped on there. And then do the same thing for the next one. Sometimes you gotta fight with it. It is easier. I always recommend that you do this like on a tray or a plate or something that if you happen to drop any of these pieces, it's gonna be easy to find it and it's not gonna like roll off your table. I'm a little more experienced with this and kind of have a good feel for it. So these days, knock on wood, I haven't been as dropsy as I was when I was first kind of getting used to all this. But you never know. I mean, I still definitely drop pieces. Okay, so this bigger ring, I open wider because this is what's going to hook on. So if you flip this around, hook it in there, and there we go. You're gonna, what I like to do is just kind of hold it here. These needle nose really are helpful because they're so tiny. Okay, so kind of hook it around like that and hold the ring in place where it's open. You're gonna hook that small ring onto the bigger ring. Just drop it right there, it's hooked on. You're gonna grab this side with one of your needle nose and then grab the other side. Make sure you have a really good grip. And you're gonna bring these together. It's going to be awkward at first. If you're new to doing this, it is gonna definitely feel a little bit awkward, so just hang in there. So there's one earring done. I'm gonna pick this up, open up the other one. Sometimes I'll just It's really bad. As you can see, my fingernails have been busted a time or two, but sometimes I'm lazy and I'll just open it with my finger. So make sure that you have the hook facing away from your earring, otherwise you're going to have it backwards. But it's real easy to just, if you get it backwards, you can just take it apart. All right, and that closes that. Make sure you have a really nice, good close. And there you go. Now, personally, I would want the star, when I'm wearing these, I would want the star facing or like pointing away from my cheek. So think about that when you put these on, how you want them to be positioned. And then just so that they stay on, make sure that you put your backings on here so that they're ready to hang up or hang on your ear. Because I know some people don't always put these on, but then it's easier to lose an earring if it flies off. So, all right. So there we have it. We've got 2 finished earrings. You also, one other thing that you can do is if you want this to be all sealed and have your paint last longer and have your glitter kind of stay on there longer, you can seal this with any type of water-based sealer, like Mod Podge works great. You can just brush it on, and with Mod Podge specifically, it goes on a little bit milky, but it dries clear. There's also, like I know Deco Art has a sealer, I think it's called Triple Thick. Any clear kind of water-based sealer should work good. I haven't sealed any of my earrings yet, but it's something that I have thought about doing just for longevity. So that's totally optional, and you could do that at any point. So, all right, well, this wraps up the earring tutorial for now, and I'm excited to paint upcoming designs with you. Can't wait to see how your earrings turned out, so I would love to see a photo as always, and if you have any feedback or ideas for next time, let me know. I hope to see you inside the Facebook group, and until next time, never stop creating. Have a good day.